Maryland's cannabis-friendly Governor Wes Moore set the tone early upon taking office, promising not only that he'd legalize cannabis businesses within the state, but he'd also be prioritizing equitable access, making sure all communities would bear the fruit of the movement. With Prince George County being the most divided within the state, made up of the poorest and most affluent black citizens in the nation at the same damn time, the time has come for residents to vote on how legalized weed game will look locally. And right on brand, PG County locals are divided. Per WTOP's reporting, Prince George County Council could not agree on tightening the rules for cannabis dispensaries on Wednesday. A bill presented would have limited where cannabis dispensaries could be located in the county to industrial areas and business parks and needed 6 votes to pass, but they only got 5. One council member voted against it, and 2 council members abstained. The majority of residents who spoke at the meeting were all in favor of the bill. Jameel Adlim Johnson, president of the Prince George County's Muslim Council, voiced his concerns. Communities like ours take on too many vices, as what happens in many minority communities. We say it's going to be managed and enforced this way, but take a look at the smoke shops, take a look at the liquor stores. You take a look at now at even truck parking and how it's not being enforced. It's hard for many of us to believe this will be enforced properly and not be a detriment to the community. Tony Caffrey, standing in opposition, reminded the council that Maryland had a goal when it came to legalizing marijuana sales. He said this: the stated first priority of the legislature is to stamp out the illicit market so consumers have access to safe product. And this legislation runs counter to the state's objective. I agree, Tony. Council member Crystal Orjada said that it's common knowledge that sometimes communities in the Beltway are not treated equally. What is told to us is not honored by businesses. There is a conversation that all these stores will be nice. They'll look like Apple stores. They'll look like yoga studios. But the reality is, no one can guarantee the quality that will be in my community. When I go to the liquor store in my district versus the liquor store in Bowie or Laurel, all in Prince George counties, they look completely different. There's bulletproof glass at every liquor store in my district. The notion of my idea that every community is treated equally just is not true. She's also concerned about the oversaturation of harmful products in certain communities like liquor stores, tobacco shops, and fast food chains. The bill is asking for us to be mindful of the needs and outcry of those communities. They have made it clear they don't want to continue to see this oversaturation in their community. Please put them first for a change over industry. It was very refreshing to see, all these conservative black folks. And y'all don't believe me when I tell you about the East Coast and in the South, because it does exist. The one opposing vote came from council member Juanica Fisher. I do think this has negative impact on social equity applicants, our black and brown businesses. I think the conversation between legalization and zoning has been conflated during the entire conversation. We're not here to debate legalization. I also believe when you constrict it this way, the rent that black and brown businesses are going to be paying in very small selected zone is going to be extremely high. Supporters of the bill are hope to be able to get more members on the council to vote in favor and bring it back up for a vote in the new year. As legalization and decriminalization continues to expand nationwide, data is increasingly available regarding crime, home values, and more tied to residential areas close to cannabis operations. And so far, all are trending positively. So I know it's tempting to scratch the reefer madness itch, especially when you've been, conditioned for so long not to believe the truth. But personally, I think PG County dodged an economic bullet with this one not passing. But I'm interested in hearing the rest of y'all's thoughts. I'm Rico Lamite, the dopest dad on the street. Happy blackest of all Black Fridays, Jason. What do you think about this one?
Oh man, Rico. I mean, are you surprised? Are you surprised by any of this?
I think looking at it, like more conservative black communities and everything, you get to see across the bigger picture. It's more about economics and not as much. You have a bunch of whistleblowers and shit like that, like your favorite ex-president, but a lot of it is economics. It's not so much it has to do with race in certain areas. And we have so much data supporting, home values increasing, supporting communities being brought up and benefiting from the sale of cannabis in their zones, in their communities, in their counties. But you still have people like this saying like, "Oh, we don't want a bunch of weed shops in here looking like bulletproof liquor stores and tobacco shops." They just don't get it, and they're just not tuned into reality, in
I,
my opinion.
I mean, maybe they want them to look like yoga studios, like they said in the article, Rico.
It just sounds like their arguments sound a lot like
Maybe
the
they
first
just
year of Orange County. Does it not sound like Orange County?
maybe they just don't maybe
With
they just don't want slumlords in
California?
their county.
I mean, the Orange County, California was saying the same shit, and then a couple of years later, after Santa Ana, the only place where they allowed cannabis to be recreational or adult use, excuse me, out here, everybody wants to add it now because they want a piece of that pie. They want a piece of that economic pie, and they're like, "Oh, it's not so bad after all, is it?" And they want to jump on the bandwagon
Not
late.
not not every city in Orange County has added it. It's just Costa Mesa.
They are starting to evolve because
They
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 see everybody
they are,
else
they,
getting that
they
money.
are evolving, and that takes time,
Yeah.
and evolvement takes time. So I don't know why you're making such a big deal about it.
I'll
The
just make a
problem
parallel.
is this.
Drawing a parallel.
What's that?
The
What's that,
problem
Doctor T?
is that we're comparing cannabis to alcohol, and that's the
Yeah.
problem. The
Yep.
Yep.
problem is that it's a bad comparison.
Mm-hmm.
Cannabis is not like alcohol, and this is my problem with those who support the adult use recreational market is that they are misstepping here, trying to compare it like alcohol. It's going to be treated like alcohol, and here we go. Here's a county in Maryland that's treating it like alcohol and saying not in my backyard, when in fact it could be healing people in their community, but they're refusing it because of poor understanding of what cannabis is.
You're exactly right on that, Dr. Talleyrand, because there's a number of different advocates that advocate for the treat cannabis like alcohol method, and that is one of the big things that resonates with a lot of lawmakers.
Mm-hmm.
You have
Were
any
you
Yeah,
part of
that's
that
a
movement,
problem.
Jason?
you have any thoughts on this, Dale, being an educator?
I'd like to think that we can like talk, walk, and chew gum at the same time.
I mean,
That
I
we
can.
need not criminalize adults for adult use, which is a harm reduction from most drugs we commonly consume, whether legal or not. That we need to continue research and legalize research and make research more accessible so that we can pharmaceuticalize
Mhm.
and have that conversation. I think I was there in the room in the middle of the arguments back in 2009 with Colorado and California as we launched a public campaign. And the two arguments were, do we call it cannabis or marijuana? Cannabis wins. It's scientific. But at the time, they thought, are you pulling the wool over the eyes of the voters? Like they thought that it was somehow, anyway. And the other question was, do we run that campaign that Colorado really, it was created with Steve Fox and Mason Tvert and Paul Armentano, that they wrote a book on it. It's a great book of, this is safer than alcohol. And for humans, it is a compare and contrast. This is how we absorb information, is compare and contrast. And cannabis, marijuana, weed, pot became this scary ghost monster that no one really knew, but everyone had in their own closet, but they couldn't talk about it. And it became so fearful for politicians, their staff, managers, and their teams, and of course, soccer moms in the voting booth. And so safer than alcohol, I think, was really effective in showing people this is legal. Mm-hmm. And what we're offering is safer than what you're familiar with being bought and sold. It used to be prohibited. Now it's not. We don't have bootleggers anymore, but bootlegging and a lot of these violent criminal cartels were created because alcohol was made illegal. And prohibition started and ended in 13 years. We could have that conversation juxtaposed to marijuana prohibition. Now, that does not at all take away from the entire conversation that these good doctors are talking about, which is equally important to continue that conversation. And how we ultimately cracked it was, this is medicine. And you shouldn't be cracking skulls while people are trying to save their children, themselves, their moms, their wives, their loved ones. But nobody ever saw that argument until someone they loved had that problem. And so we just have to keep having multiple conversations about this. There is no silver bullet.
There is no silver bullet.
There is not.
No.
And one more
Yeah,
point
for the-
about
And social equity is a big part of that too. Yeah.
What's that, Dr. T?
one more point about the argument for looking at this as recreational versus medicinal. Aspirin is available over the counter. You can go and pick it up without a license, without a prescription, and cannabis can be the same. So if the argument is better access to make it recreational, that doesn't make sense to me either. Make it over the counter, make it so that you don't need a recommendation to pick it up. But call it what it is. It's really a medicinal product. It's not a recreational product.
Well, I think the word recreational is also problematic, Dr. Talleyrand, is that what we really, it's adult use, medicinal use. We have responsible use at the core of all of this. Like that's really what we're just looking for is responsible use, whatever you are using it for. The thing is unfortunately in our current American society, to put something through a pharmacy, which is currently how over the counter is usually sold, it's still just a freaking plant that we can grow in our backyard. And so I think we can walk, talk, and chew gum at the same time. I think that cannabis can be made safe and safely available. And if adults are consuming cannabis over alcohol, any doctor would agree, especially at this point, they're saying, yeah, remember that glass of wine? Maybe not even that. Like it's poison. And so if we can replace poison, whatever that happens to be with cannabis, for me, it was tobacco as a 17-year smoker. And that will kill me eventually. And so having that conversation of responsible use and adult use, and you don't necessarily have to go to a pharmacy for tobacco either. And tobacco will kill you. Aspirin will kill you. LD50 is what, around, at half a bottle of most. Yeah. So it's, many things we commonly consume can kill us. Water can kill us. It is about responsible use.
Water can kill you. I remember that. I remember that thing that they did on the radio station one time when they made a lady drink a whole bunch of water for a Nintendo 64 or something, and she ended up dying.
Yeah, that just happened.
Yeah, that was
a mother of 2 or 3, a poor mother of kids trying to just get something for her kids' Christmas, and now she's dead and they don't have a mother. Water can kill you. Stupidity can kill you. Hello, Darwin Awards.
That is so true. And on the stupidity kills, we're going to go to a commercial.
Or ignorance. Can I say ignorance kills?
I say stupidity.